Hey folks, welcome to the Calnan Repair Channel. Today we're going to repair a broken power connector on a Jetson Sphere Hoverboard. This was purchased at Target for Christmas a few years ago, and through use and abuse, the power connector's been broken. There's supposed to be 3 pins in there, and I only see 2. What we're going to do is we're going to start with removing the bottom panels. Each is secured with 8 screws, 4 on the right, 4 on the left. So let's start taking this thing apart. Alright, here we are. We've removed the covers on both sides. We have our 16 screws. We used a Phillips screwdriver to remove those with a longer shaft because they're in pretty deep. Now what do we have here? We've got the power connector with a long cable that goes through the center of the hoverboard, out the other side, and to a connector that's right there. Getting a little too close. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this connector, give it a little squeeze, pull it out. There we go. It was glued in, but easy to break off, and I'm going to pull the connector from this end, pull the cable. Here we go, pulling it through. Push it in there, pull it through on this end. Alright, so we've got the cable pulled through. Now we have a little nut got to unscrew, and for that purpose I have an adjustable wrench, and we'll just grab the end of the nut here and got it loose. We'll turn it. Almost there. And getting close. There we go. Nuts off. I'm just going to pull the nut down the cable. Connector small enough that the nut fits through it. Now we can pull the connector, the power connector, out the front there. There we go. So there's our broken connector. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace that connector with one we purchased off Amazon. Okay, here's what we got. The cable that we just pulled out of the Jetson Sphere Hoverboard is there in the rear. The cable that we purchased off Amazon is there in front. Now, unfortunately, this was the closest cable I could find. It has the same power connector, but you could see the cable is not as long. I'll give you a look at what I ended up ordering. Close enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to unsolder the cable connected to the new connector. We are going to unsolder the cable connected to the old connector. And then we're going to connect the old cable to the new connector. For this purpose, we have a nice Metcal soldering station. Got some solder, a solder sucker, nice pair of vice grips to hold things steady while we're working on them. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the cable from the new connector we ordered off Amazon. Okay, a few seconds later, just a touch of the soldering iron to the connections, and we were able to pull the wires off the connectors. So there we have our new connector, 3 pins intact, our old cable, and the next step will be to solder the old cable to the new connector. Alright, we're all set up to start soldering. Just to refresh your memory, the red wire goes to pin 1 and the black wire to pin 2. There are numbers on each of the pins. I'm not going to be able to show you this because we have to get too close and need a little more light, but there are numbers on the pins on the back side of the connector right there. So red, pin 1, black, pin 2. I'm just holding everything, or connector, steady in a pair of vice grips here. Okay, we have our connector soldered up to the cable. You can see that way back when I first uninstalled the cable, I pulled the shrink tube back so that I could reuse it. I could have used new shrink tube, but I'm cheap and lazy, so there I go. I pulled it back, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide that black shrink tube back over the joint for both the red and black wire, and we'll have our cable ready to be reinstalled. Okay, here we are. So we have our cable with our new connector, and we're going to go ahead and slide the cable through the opening, put the nut back on, and then slide that cable back through the center of the board here and reconnect it to its connector back over here. There's our connector back into the housing. We've snugged up this the nut hand tight, and now what I'm going to do is take my adjustable wrench and get that nice and snug so it stays there through all the vibration and bumps that this hoverboard will endure for the rest of its life.
Action.
Okay, now that we've snugged up the nut on the connector, we're ready to pass the cable through the center of the hoverboard. What I'm going to do is pull these other cables aside, and I'm going to start sliding this through. There it is, coming out the other side. And that connector goes right here. Here we go. Snapped in, nice and tight. And we are ready to close this up. I'm going to slip this over here, shuffle it in place, do the same with the other side. Put the cover on here, and now we're ready to put our 16 screws back in place with our handy dandy number 2 Phillips. Alright, tune in for another repair next time.